Welcome to the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative. This is episode number 482. Today, I'm sharing 10 secrets that will help you create a content creation schedule. Now let's dive in. Hey, I'm Taylor Bradford, host of the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative. I help small business owners turn their purpose into a paycheck, and it starts with visibility. In the online world, visibility equates to sales. So if you're dreaming of being the next $1 million entrepreneur, you've come to the right place because weekly I share visibility tips, brand advice, and business resources. So grab a notebook, your favorite pen, and a beverage, and let's do the work. Hey, welcome to episode 482. I'm your host, Taylor Bradford. Thank you so much for hitting that play button to listen to the secrets that I will be sharing on how you can create a content schedule that actually makes sense for you and that you will stick to, because that's kind of the key in building that like, know, and trust factor with your audience. Before we get there, let's find out what's been going on in the land of social media. Social media headline number 1, Meta is shutting down its Spark AR studio. The decisions come as Meta looks to ramp up its AR push. These next social media headlines are all related to Instagram. First of all, Instagram has added new text and sticker options. The app is expanding style options available to users. Also, Instagram is exploring a new music sharing process via Spotify, a new way to share what you're listening to at any given time. They're also working on a custom collage creation feature. The feature would use images from your camera roll for new creations. And then finally, Instagram adds story comments to encourage interaction. The comments will be displayed along the bottom of the frame. Social media headline number 3, X is close to launching video conference calls. The video conferencing is part of Musk's plan for an everything app. Social media headline number 4, in keeping with X, they are rolling out DM editing on iOS. You can now edit your DMs within the app. And finally, LinkedIn launches in-feed video carousels. This is a new way to drive video engagement within the app. And that wraps up this week's social media headlines. This week's episode is brought to you by Dubsado. Dubsado is the management software I have been using for over 5 years now to stay organized, manage invoices, and get paid. And Dubsado is offering my listeners 20% off their first month or first year of service. Just go to bossgirlcreative.com/Dubsado to take advantage, to get started, and to get your life back today. So let's get into these secrets, because I know that's what you're really here for, right? How to create a content calendar that you're going to stick to. I've got 10 steps, 10 secrets that are going to help you create intentional content with purpose and to create a routine that you're actually going to stick to. Before we dive into those secrets, I do have a freebie. It's my content calendar template that is going to help you create this calendar to create a structure for yourself that you will be able to stick to. You can grab it by going to bossgirlcreative.com/content plan, and it's totally free. So let's talk about these secrets. So first of all, what type of content are you currently creating? You could be creating blog posts. You could be creating video content, both short form and long form, whether that's through YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. You could be creating emails, you could be creating courses, you could be creating Instagram content or Facebook content or Pinterest content. Like, that is content creation. What type is the medium of the content creation? So whether it's a blog post or a video or just text, that is the content itself. And chances are every single day you are actually creating content for your business and audience. You just may not be thinking of it as actual content. Like if you see an inspiration reel and you're like, oh my gosh, that would totally serve my audience. Like that is you in content creation mode. And so you may be creating some types of content without really realizing it or being super intentional about it. And that is what today is all about. Secrets that will help you get way more intentional, way more purposeful, that will ultimately serve your audience better and help you grow that like, know, and trust factor. So first, let's talk about what I am currently doing. So with Sugar Creek, we post 3 times on Instagram in the feed. So we're doing 2 reels and 1 carousel post right now on Instagram. Now, I do have plans to sit down with my assistant to kind of talk about a potential new strategy for Instagram. But right now it's 3 posts on the feed, 2 are reels, 1 is a carousel. We do stories every single day. The goal is 6 to 10. And then we write blog posts when we have something to say. So when we get a gallery back from a wedding or event, or we have created our own content in our own studio, then that is when we are writing blog posts. And then those blog post photos actually get pinned to our Pinterest. And then it also serves up what we might be sharing in the carousel post when we post on Instagram. We do focus on Instagram and we do focus on our blog. And then we just share content out on Facebook because I don't really get a lot of leads from Facebook. So I was actually talking to a friend, which I'll bring up in just a moment, just yesterday. And I said, 90% of my leads are coming out of Google and most of it's being driven by my daily Google ads. And then maybe 10% is coming in from Instagram and referrals. And so even though Instagram is kind of our highlight reel, it's kind of our portfolio per se on the internet, it's not driving us a whole lot of traffic, which is why we don't have a very strict Instagram schedule. Like we want to be there, we want to show up there because I do know that a small percentage is finding us on Instagram, but really it's our blog, it's our website. That is what is ultimately bringing us traffic. So that's the current content schedule for Sugar Creek. For Boss Girl Creative, if I hadn't have fallen off the wagon last week because of what was going on in my day-to-day, which actually happened to be related to Sugar Creek, when I have a week-long event, I literally just fall apart on all the other things except for the podcast. The podcast is very, very important, so that does not slip through the cracks. But social media posting last week and leading into last week just kind of fell off the wayside for me for Boss Girl Creative because of how involved I was with a big event for Sugar Creek that was literally a full week long, and it required a lot of hours and a lot of time and dedication. And so just Boss Girl Creative's Instagram just kind of fell through the cracks. And so I'm excited to get back to content creation for Boss Girl Creative because I do find it is very important. But sometimes when you're doing too much and you're multi-passionate like me, things will fall through the cracks. And I stopped beating myself up over it a long time ago. I stopped allowing guilt to just eat me alive a long time ago. So this is just where we are. But it's supposed to be Monday through Friday, a post every single day, if not 2 posts on Boss Girl Creative's Instagram, daily stories, podcasting 1 time a week, which pushes over to my YouTube for Boss Girl Creative. So if you want to listen through my YouTube channel, you can totally do that. And then emailing 1 time a week. So that's the schedule for Boss Girl Creative. And then my personal account, which is kind of more lifestyle related and is where my blog originally centered when I first started blogging, is posting 1 time a day, stories daily. I do want to get back to a YouTube every week and a blog post every week. So that is the goal. And I finally feel I have some content to be able to share that is lifestyle related because we have bought land. We bought 11.111 acres, which is totally angel numbers for me. And I feel like it's just meant to be when it became that. It didn't start out that way, but then we had to do a shared driveway easement and then I obtained. 11.111, which is so freaking cool. So I will have content to share, which is exciting. We're doing land excavating right now, land clearing, because we're going to build our own runway, and then we have to burn the debris that we had to cut down. The property is heavily treed, and we have been cleaning up all the brush to allow the old oaks to have some breathing room and to, kind of stop the choking process that happens when somebody doesn't maintain the forest. And so a lot of work has been happening so far. We have to bury an overhead line, so the electric company has to come out and do that, and they came out to do some prep work recently. So a lot going on and a lot that I can document. And like I said last week, I have been doing kind of like almost like a daily vlog over on my personal Instagram at Taylor L. Bradford. And it's like a Dear Diary. So I'm just literally documenting for myself so that I can remember the things that I do on the day-to-day, but also kind of a love story to myself or a love letter to myself in the future that I can go back and watch. So that's personal. So I want you to think about what kind of content calendar will work for you, what's realistic, and that's part of what these secrets are all about. So let's dive into the secrets. So really, the reason the secrets work, the magic within these secrets happens because you do stick to it. So the magic will occur because you stick to something. So number one, I want you to be realistic. How much time do you really have to devote to content creation? How often will you really be posting? I want you to start small and work big instead of the other way around. I think sometimes we set ourselves up to fail because we get all of these grandiose ideas, and then realistically, which is number one, realistically, we can't follow through. And so then we just have all this guilt and shame and who knows what else, failure, and none of that will help propel us forward. So how often will you really be posting? How much time do you really have to devote to content creation? Start small, work big. And I also want you to think about this in the form of a yo-yo diet. This is not yo-yo dieting. So I don't want you to yo-yo diet with your content creation, which is why starting small and working big will make sense. Where are you spending the most time currently in your business? And how much ROI are you getting out of that? And how are you going to save or preserve that time specifically for content creation? What's the time going to look like? How much can you create in that amount of time? And how much time have you actually realistically got? How much time do you have? How much time do you got? That's very, very important in determining how realistic your content schedule is going to be. Like I mentioned last week, my content schedule for Boss Girl Creative was not realistic because of how much time I had to work in Sugar Creek. And I say in because we were loading in, we were setting up, we were, managing with the client, and all of that was very important. So that meant a lot of things didn't happen last week because of that. My warehouse didn't get cleaned. My floors didn't get cleaned. The organizing of my warehouse kind of fell apart because we just had so much going on. But now we have a chance to reset, and that's the most important part, which is why it's important not to make yourself feel bad when things go, through the rails. Secret number two, be consistent. People crave structure, including you. So your followers also crave structure. We're all human. We crave structure. You being consistent not only gives you that structure, but gives them that structure. And that is just as equally as important. Think about who you follow religiously. And you probably know, because you follow them religiously, when to expect content from them. And it's just like a mental thing because you're constantly checking in to see when they've released content because you kind of know their content schedule. So think about who you follow religiously and think about how they are producing content and publishing content. When you show your audience that you can stick to your word, that you can be dependable, that you can be trusted, that's how you build relationships and followings. So how are you going to carve out a place each week for the content you're creating? How and where are you going to publish that content? And how are you going to let people know that you have new content? Secret number 3, never create and publish in the same day. And I am the world's worst at this because I am a professional procrastinator. And I know this about myself. And so sometimes I will create content and publish it in the same day. And I am trying so hard to be realistic about that fact. Secret number 1. But also, we don't produce the best work when we do it that way. And so giving yourself an opportunity to maybe batch create or sit down and create and then give yourself several hours break, maybe even take a nap or go to sleep and have the next day or send it to somebody so they can put their eyeballs on it. Like, I want you to work hard at not creating content and publishing it in the same day. I want you to work hard at creating space between you and your work. You've got to give yourself time to go back and reread it, check for typos, make sure your links are working, get somebody else's eyeballs on it to make sure you're hitting all of the points that you feel are relevant to the piece of content you're creating. Like, all of this is so important and very valid in content creation. And we do ourselves a disservice when we are creating the content in the same day we're publishing it. And we've got to get better at not doing it that way. And I realize when you're out scrolling, maybe you're mindlessly scrolling and you're looking for inspiration and you're like, holy crap, that's really awesome. And you sit down and you do it. And then you hit publish and it's like 11 p.m. at night. Like, that is literally sometimes what happens for me. And I'm like, who's really up at 11 p.m. at night to see this? I mean, if you're a night owl like me, maybe, but it's kind of doing me a disservice to not wait. And I have very little patience for waiting, so I have to work more on that. But really, it's not good to create in the same day and hit publish. Like, give yourself some space. Secret number 4, batch working. And I've talked about this over and over and over. You are able to stay way more focused when you can focus on one task at a time or to replicate that same task multiple times. That is what and how batch working actually works and why it's successful, why it's efficient, like all the things. Because here's the thing, when you are working, you are routinely switching between different tasks, which ultimately creates a waste of time trying to reorient yourself back to what you actually doing. And like, again, I can be terrible at having a bajillion tabs open. It's kind of like a filing system for my brain if I don't. And I think part of it for me personally is the brain injury I had occur in 2016. I struggle with memory problems, and I can like have an idea and I will start into that task and then completely lose it. And then I will sit there almost kind of berating myself for forgetting like instantaneously what it was that I was doing. And I'll sit there and hope that I get back to it. Like, it totally sucks. And I feel for you if you also struggle with that, because it's frustrating. You have the idea, for whatever reason, you aren't mindful enough about the idea. And so then it quickly slides away in the like moment of you going to do the thing. Like, the other day I was searching for something and it like was there, and I went to open my phone and I went to Safari and I started typing it in, and then I was like, what was I actually typing in? And I was so frustrated that I couldn't remember it. I eventually did remember it after I sat there for a few moments, but it gets frustrating when you have an idea, you're inspired, you go and like set the idea in motion, and then the idea disappears and you're like, what was I doing? Like, it can be frustrating. So that's why sometimes batch recording or batch creating is like super effective, because you stay on that task and you repeat it multiple times to create the thing. So if it's scheduling content or creating content, whether it's batch producing for Instagram or short form video, for TikTok or YouTube or even Instagram, like being able to do those things so that you stay on task, you're not constantly having to reorient yourself to get back. It's going to just help you just amazingly. Secret number 5, schedule ahead. This goes back to the kind of that batch task stuff, and then also not publishing on the same day you're producing the content. What's the big picture thing you're working on? What's the clear direction you're going in? What promotions need to happen? What launches need to happen? I want you to look at your entire year. Where's the busy? Where's the launches? I need you to map it all out so that you can create a game plan for yourself, because you have to understand what the overall climate is of your own calendar. If you don't understand the overall climate, then how are you going to be effective at getting the content created that serves the purpose of what the big picture is? And that's important. Secret number 6, give yourself grace. This is what I had to do for myself last week. And I have really, truly gotten to a point where I know things are going to go off the rails. It just is what it is, especially when you're running multiple businesses, and you have to be okay with that. But had I already pre-recorded the content or already pre-written the content, I wouldn't have put myself in that position last week, but here we are, and I did. So it is what it is. But you have to give yourself grace, because we are human. Things are going to happen. And honestly, the world is not going to crumble if you don't publish on time or you miss a day. Like, truly. Like, most of the time, people's heads are down and they are doing their thing, and they don't even realize what day it is, just like you. So it's really not that big of a deal. Working out of desperation is truly nowhere to be. And like, I had a conversation yesterday with a friend, and like the desperation I could just feel from her through the phone, it just broke my heart, because sometimes we do get ourselves into those positions where we are acting from desperation. We don't do good work when we're there. So working out of desperation is truly nowhere to be in your business. Secret number 7, adapt. Adapt your business to your schedule, to your needs, to your clients. Nothing is set in stone. If I were to talk to my Sugar Creek self in 2017, I would be having a completely different conversation than I would be having right now, because I was attracting a completely different client in 2017 than what I'm attracting today in 2024. And there's no bad to either of those clients. I was there in 2017 and that's who I was serving. I'm now in 2024 and have a different client. And that is because I chose to adapt as I saw the market change, as I saw the trend change, as I saw where I best fit into the gaps of my market. Being resilient and adaptable are 2 of the best traits to have as an entrepreneur. And if you don't have them, I want you to find them ASAP, because it will allow you to be in this long term, into the long game. Allow your offerings to change as your business evolves, as your ideal client evolves, because things will change. We all saw that in COVID. Things drastically changed for a majority of us. I need you to go with the punches and allow changes to happen as you evolve, as your ideal client evolves, as your business evolves. So going back to the desperation, this friend was really struggling with sales, and they invested in an SEO supposed expert, and they're spending quite a lot of money on this human every single month, and they have watched a drastic drop in sales. And I do think, based on hearing the conversation of what has happened with her website, I do think some of it is attributed to those changes. There was actually some unfortunate changes made to her website that were written by AI and were not actually proofread and were published on her website, which I do think really kind of hurt her. But at the end of the day, you have to also look at the trends in your market to see if you are still relevant. And I think that's a really big piece that a lot of people miss. When you start to see a drop in sales, you need to first figure out, okay, is it you or is it just the time of the year? Like right now, there is a drop in sales in the wedding industry because it's an election year, and that just is part of the cycle of how things work. But if you have a drastic drop year over year or year to last year, then I do think you have to go in and start looking at other pieces to the puzzle. How is your market driving the trends, and how are the trends driving your market? I think sometimes we forget that we get so horse goggles on, we stay in our lane, we do our thing, that we realize that the world has evolved around us and the thing that we have been offering for years and years and years is no longer what the market wants. And we haven't adapted, which is why being able to stay adaptable in your market is so incredibly important. So I just said, hey, I would encourage you to go have conversations with the planners who have been your referral business in the past. Why has their referral business dropped for you? What are they seeing their clients spend money on? And that will help you find sales again if it makes sense in your business or if you have to pivot into new inventory or new offerings, etc. You have to be willing to adapt and you have to constantly keep your thumb or finger on what's going on in the market because a lot of things can be affecting a lot of things, but also big picture, have the trends changed and are you still fitting within them? Secret number 8, focus on mediums that you actually love the most. I think we can get bogged down in creating content because we're supposed to be showing up everywhere. Well, that also falls in line with you speaking to too many people and not speaking to your ideal customer. So focus on mediums that you love the most. Don't follow trends, set them or be them. And I mean that in the grand scheme of things of don't think you have to be on Instagram because everybody else is on Instagram if you hate Instagram. You're going to create crappy content on Instagram just because you think you need to be on it. So that's what I mean by don't follow trends. If you're in a market where trends are important to your business, I do need you to pay attention to that. But when it comes to creating content and publishing content, I don't want you to jump on the bandwagon because everybody's on TikTok. I don't want you to be on Snapchat because everybody's on Snapchat. I don't want you to follow that kind of a trend for your business. I want you to create what works for you and where you like hanging out. So where are you going to shine the brightest? I want you to find it, focus on it, and serve through it. Secret number 9, offer diversity. And what I mean by this is for yourself personally, create connection points that will get people to know, and trust you. Be meaningful about sharing the behind the scenes or sharing more about who you are to create those connection points. Going back and thinking about the episode where I shared 10 things that I've never told you, created such connection between me and several of my listeners or several of my followers that I was holy crap, I've not been doing this well enough. And it's such an important piece to being able to grow a business, to be able to be sustainable in business. So I want you to be meaningful about what you do share that is more than just the services you offer, more than just the offerings that you offer. So I personally crave that connection. That is what is missing in my podcast. I sit in this tiny closet, I hit record, I talk to the laptop screen with the mic sitting in front of me, I'm looking at my notes, but there's no connection beyond that. I do know who I'm talking to in my brain. I know who my content is best serving, but it's one-sided until I hear from you. And I do crave connection. I work with my husband 24/7. It is legitimately me and him. I hear a lot. I don't know how you do it all. I mean, I get that so freaking often that I feel like it prevents me from creating connection because people put this barrier between me and them that I am not relatable, or I do so much and I'm so much further in the game, or whatever it might be that is an unfair connection to me. And I'm but I want to just burst through that because I'm me. I'm human just like you are. I live in a relatively small town. I very rarely venture out unless I have an event to be a part of, whether it's paid or I'm out networking. I don't have a lot of in-person friends, which really sucks, but that happens when you work all the time and you work with your husband. I rarely wear makeup unless I'm out networking. I have no kids by choice. I'm in my early 40s. I'm multi-passionate. I have multiple businesses that I'm running. I literally just deleted nearly everybody off of my Facebook because I was really tired of people watching me from afar but not supporting me. So goodbye, you're done. I've lived in one of my duplexes. It's an investment property that we've owned since 2004, since 2012. And I feel like we've been here like 10 years too long, but I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. We now have this property that we're working on, and I will be able to build my dream home, which is really exciting. I'm a workaholic. I very rarely stop. I don't drink very often. I will occasionally in a networking situation, but very rarely do I drink. I love college and pro football. We're now legitimately in my most favorite time of the year. We are in the BER months, which I feel like I come alive in. I wear workout clothes or jeans or t-shirts daily. Like legitimately, this is who I am. And I crave connection. And sometimes that's really hard for me in this podcast because I don't get the connection that I crave. And I'm in a small town. So like the networking opportunities here in my small town are few and far between. And when I have, I feel like I get that, I don't know how you do it. And I'm just like, can I just be your friend kind of thing? We are all human. We want to be with people or around people who make us feel a little more human. And we want to spend our time with individuals who don't make us feel less than, which is why I deleted nearly everybody off of Facebook, because that's how I was feeling every time I showed up in that app. So also with secret number 9 being diverse, you have to be diverse on your platforms because not everyone who you may want to be attracting is sitting on Instagram. But also the content you create for the different platforms may not be well suited to those platforms. I wrote this note. I think it's funny. I kind of laughed out loud. We use Facebook to kill time. We use TikTok to kill time. We use Instagram to kill time. I know that these platforms, this is what made me laugh. I know that these platforms actually have a use beyond killing time, but I feel like we are now using them to kill time, to escape from our realities, to escape from whatever it is that we are, putting on the back burner. But truly, each platform does offer something different for different people. And I want you to think about how you can be diverse in creating content for those platforms. Now, I'm not talking about creating new content all the time for all of these platforms at once, but you can repurpose the content based on the media that does well on those platforms. And then secret number 10, I want you to create a routine that you can stick to. And this is where my freebie comes in, the content creation plan calendar template. Grab it, go to bossgirlcreative.com/content plan. It will just help you set it all up so that you have a plan in place. But I want you to create a routine that you can actually stick to because consistency matters. When are you going to publish? When are you going to email? When are you going to post? Create workflows and routines that make sense for you and the life that you have right now, and then be willing to adapt. And then all of this all goes back and funnels into how does this or how will this serve your audience? And are you doing that piece of content justice? So there you have it. 10 secrets to creating a content plan that will actually work for you as long as it has the foundation of those 10 secrets. That's how this all works. The magic happens when you're consistent, when you show up and serve your audience. Again, thank you to Dubsado. Again, if you are looking for a system that will just help give you back some time, this is a great one. Dubsado. Go to bossgirlcreative.com/Dubsado to take advantage of 20% off your first month or 20% off your first year. Until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Hey, real quick, before I go, I wanted to pop back in and say again, thank you so much for listening to this latest episode of the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast. I would so love a favor from you right now. Would you please share this episode with a friend or share it to your social media and tag me at Boss Girl Creative? Oh my gosh, that would mean so much to me if you did that right now. Okay, I'll see you next week with a brand new episode.